Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for today's Counselor Connect session. This is, we're glad to be joined by Dr. Connie Poston, and she is going to be speaking to multi-tiered attendance support, which we know is one of our key priority topics for this school year. So we are really glad to have her with us to share some tips and tricks and resources and things of that nature to help with our attendance rates. The slides are here on the bit.ly on the screen. I will also continue to add them to the chat as new people pop on, so you can follow along with us and access any resource that is referenced throughout the presentation. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Connie to go ahead and get us started. Thanks, Connie.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it. And thank you guys for having me today. So I want to start with just introducing myself. So this is just a little bit about me. So as Amanda said, my name is Dr. Connie Poston. You can call me Connie. So I am actually with, I just switched to a new position. I am with a nonprofit called Bring Change to Mind, but I have over 16 years of experience in education. I am a licensed school counselor. My most recent position was a director of behavioral health with a school district in central Indiana. I hold my building level admin license. I also hold my superintendent's license, and I have my doctorate in educational leadership. But my dissertation was actually on the relationship between PBIS and iRead 3 scores. I've always had a passion for figuring out what that correlation between our work as school counselors and that educational piece is. It's really important to me to kind of bridge that gap between the school counselors' work and our educators' work. So you can see just some pictures of me here with my boys, my two boys, Noah and Jonah, my husband, and then my doggos. Those are the girls in my life, Ivy and Reggie there at the top. So just a little bit about me. So thank you for joining today. I am one of those weird educators. I love talking attendance. I think it's something that makes us scratch our heads, and it's so hard to figure out sometimes, but I do love talking attendance because I think it's so important for our kids. I am going to start with an activity, and you all are going to not love me right now, but I am going to ask if you're able to do this activity with me, if you would actually turn your cameras on if you are able. I know it's might be lunchtime right now, you might be doing something else, but if you would turn your camera on to do this real quick attendance poll with me. Go ahead and turn your cameras on if you can. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm not going to make you talk to me, don't
What are
worry.
you working on your computer?
I'm not going to make you talk. Go ahead and turn your cameras on. All right, thank you. Thank you. Again, you're not going to have to talk. Just turn your cameras on. Okay. All right, so anybody else that's able to turn their camera on, that'd be great. All right, so I'm going to read some attendance statements, okay? And what I want everyone to do is, typically if I do this in a classroom setting, so let's say you want to repeat this activity with people in your school, typically I would have people stand. Now, obviously we are virtual, so I can't have you necessarily stand. That won't help. I won't be able to tell if you're standing or sitting, but we're going to have you turn your cameras on or off, depending on if you've done these things. Okay, so now I'm going to annoy everyone because I'm going to have you turn your cameras on and off, but that's okay. So at this point now, I want everyone to turn their cameras off. Not yet, though. When I count to 3, I want everyone to turn their cameras off. But when I read these statements, if you have done this, I want you to turn your camera on. And then I want you to take a look at your screen, and I want you to just look and see how many of us have done these things. I'm going to leave mine on the whole time. Well, actually, I will participate too, actually. All right, so on the count of 3, I want everyone to turn their cameras off, and then I will read the statement. If you have done this, then I want you to turn your camera back on, okay? All right, so Actually, I am not going to participate because I don't know that I can keep sharing my screen and find my camera without messing everything up. So, okay. So go ahead on the count of 3, turn your cameras on. 1, 2, 3, or off. 1, 2, 3, turn your camera off. Okay. Turn your camera on if you ever had perfect attendance for an entire school year. So if you had perfect attendance, turn your camera on. All right. 3 of us on here had perfect attendance. Oh, 4. All right. Awesome. Good job, ladies. All right. Turn your camera off. All right. If you ever miss school due to a family vacation, so if your parents pulled you out of school for a family vacation, all right, a couple of you. Perfect. Okay. Turn your camera off. All right. Turn your camera on if you ever attended school when you were sick because you did not want to miss a day. Yeah. I feel like this is pretty typical for educators because we're kind of those high achievers. We don't want to miss. We're going to power through, right? All right, turn your camera off. Thank you. All right, turn your camera on if you ever skipped school and your parent did not know. Any rebels out there? A couple of you? Okay, couple rebels. I love it. All right, go and turn your camera off. All right, turn your camera on if you ever skipped school and your parent did know you skipped and they were all for it. Okay, couple of you. Great. All right, turn your camera off. And turn your camera on if you ever had to miss school due to needing to care for a family member. Okay, a couple of you. Thank you. You turn your camera off. And finally, turn your camera on if you ever were responsible for getting yourself to school. You didn't have somebody at home to help you. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. And you can go ahead and either leave your camera on, turn it off, whatever you're comfortable with doing. We're done with that activity, but I appreciate everyone being vulnerable with me, for sharing. We could go on and on. There's all sorts of reasons that we either come to school, didn't come to school, and the same is true for our students. But I really like doing that activity because it takes us back to what it was like going to school. I know for myself, it's been a while. And so it's really important that we start with that reminder of what it was like being a student, and just to remind ourselves that there's always something going on at home for ourselves and for our students. There's always something happening behind closed doors, and there's always reasons that our kids are coming to school or not coming to school. And so it's just a really, really good reminder that there's always something else. And also, there was not any of those that there was just one person going through the same thing, or one person that was missing school or coming to school or not coming to school. There's typically multiple people that have the same sort of reasons for the attendance. So just a good reminder. So thank you. So just a really quick discussion about the importance of attendance. So attendance isn't just about being present. It's about creating opportunities for academic success, social emotional growth, and future readiness. So research has shown us that students who attend school regularly not only perform better academically, but also build those strong relationships with peers and teachers, which foster a really strong sense of community. So I think we all know on this call, it's important to remember that attendance is important for those academic growth. So obviously, as we're thinking about reading skills at a young level, it's really important that our students are coming every day so they're not falling behind for those foundational literacy skills that we want them to know. But not only that, it's important to remember that attendance is also the foundation for lifelong habits like responsibility and punctuality. So we know students miss school for various reasons, and that's where we come in as educators. So I often hear, but my student has all A's. They aren't struggling academically. I have had many students who aren't struggling academically. They've got the academics down, but they're still missing, right? And it's more than that. It's the habit of being at school. It's the long-term impact of showing up every day. One of my best friends is in manufacturing, and she's got some employees who are so smart, but they can't show up every day to work. And it's that habit when they enter the workforce of coming to work every day. And they don't have that habit. And it's early attendance is when they start building that habit. And it all goes back to that early learning of learning to come to school. So I love this graphic, and it might be kind of hard to see. And if it is, I apologize. But it is from the National Assessment of Educational Progress. But it starts with thinking about from kindergarten. But kindergarten students who are chronically absent have a 61% chance of being held back for reading below grade level in the 3rd grade. So that's 3 years later. And all the way from kindergarten and being absent in kindergarten, it's impacting them all the way in 3rd grade. But then even if we look at the end of this, by college, a chronically absent high school graduate has an 11% chance of receiving any degree. So this is having lifelong impacts on them. And so it's huge to think about them missing school, even from a young age, has a long-term effect throughout their entire academic career. So we have to really think about how we can intervene and what we can do. So I'm not going to read through this whole graphic with you, but it's really impactful as we think about starting at a young age and how we can intervene throughout. And this graphic really talks about from kindergarten to 1st grade to middle school to high school. Our high school students between 8th and 12th grade, a student who is chronically absent is 7.4 times more likely to drop out of high school. 7.4 times more likely to drop out. And so a lot of times that's because they're either so far behind, or if we go back and think about those social emotional skills, they may not have that peer support that they needed. And so it's really important to think about what is lacking in their school environment or in their own social circle that they don't have support. And so it's really important that we're providing those interventions at a young age. So in everything that I do, when it comes to education, my brain automatically goes to an MTSS pyramid. And one reason that is because there's not enough of us to go around. We have so many more students than there are educators. And we can't intervene one-on-one with every student. It's just not possible. So we're all familiar, hopefully, with a multi-tiered system of support. But let's think about how we apply this framework specifically to attendance. So from universal supports that benefit all students to targeted interventions for those facing specific challenges, a tiered approach ensures that we can meet the needs of each individual student. So as we go through the rest of the presentation, I'll highlight some specific examples, but I'm really going to focus on this foundational support because we really need to look at how we can lay a strong foundation for all students, because like I said, there's not enough of us to go around to put individual supports in place for every single student, because we can't intervene individually with every student because there's just not enough of us, okay, when we have caseloads of over 400 students. So we need to be really careful about looking at what foundational supports we can put in place to promote positive conditions for learning. So when we think about positive conditions for learning, we're talking about those foundational supports that are keeping students engaged and motivated. So schools with positive relationships, engaging and relevant curriculum, and safe, welcoming environments are actually seeing significant improvements in attendance. So for example, schools that prioritize positive relationships are reporting a 36% drop in chronic absenteeism. So similarly, creating a safe and welcoming environment at school can actually improve our attendance by 30% as compared to schools where students report feeling unsafe. So this reinforces the idea that if students feel supported and safe, they're more likely to show up. So if they've got these strong relationships with teachers, if we're doing things to make sure that they feel supported through having safe and welcoming school environments, if we create these family and community engagements, if our adults feel like they're supported and we're promoting student and adult well-being, this actually is going to improve our attendance. So this as educators, we do so many things to try to make school environments that create these positive conditions for learning. But again, we have such high student caseloads. How do we do this? This is why having such strong foundational supports for all students is so important. Like I've said before, there's just not enough of us to go around. So we have to have proactive programs that can really make an impact. So I do want to share with you one of these programs that can do one of these things. And so specifically, a nonprofit that I work for called Bring Change to Mind. So Bring Change to Mind was co-founded in 2010 by Glenn Close with a mission to end the stigma and discrimination surrounding mental illness. And it is one of those foundational support programs that could really impact attendance. So we do this through high school and middle school mental health clubs. So Bring Change to Mind, we have over 540 clubs in 43 states with over 14,000 students. And we're proud that our key outcomes include reducing stigma, increased acceptance and empathy towards those with mental illness, higher rates of help seeking, and heightened sense of community connectedness and mental health literacy. These are all outcomes that have been proven to increase attendance at a foundational level. So there's a QR code here that you can see and you can scan with your phone if you want more information. There are open spots for middle school, high school clubs. It's all free. There's grant money associated with it to implement these clubs at your school, no cost to you. You can kind of see where we're located throughout the state. But I do want to share with you some data associated with implementing these clubs and implementing an attendance research with research outcomes with attendance. So for example, schools that implement comprehensive mental health services have been shown that they're 21% less likely to be chronically absent. So schools that prioritize a positive climate where mental health is openly discussed, students are 25%, there's been a 25% drop in chronic absenteeism. And schools with programs aimed at reducing stigma have a 15 to 20% improvement in attendance. And then you can see here in this orange box, these are actually directly from the Bring Change to Mind impact report, that 82% of Indiana members reported that stigma was reduced at school. 93% of Indiana members said that they learned how to take better care of themselves and their mental health, which lends back to that comprehensive mental health service. And then 91% reported that they could recognize common signs of mental illness. And then schools that foster a feeling of safety and security, we talked about that. Students that feel more safe are more likely to come to school, resulting in 15% improvement in attendance rates. Schools that foster a feeling of safety and security, again, that 15% improvement in attendance rates. And schools with intentional SEL teaching, a 13% increase in attendance rates. And so having these foundational supports are so important to be able to just get kids to school in general as that foundational support. But again, we know that tier one, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. Go back. Oh, I won't go back. There we go. Okay, but we know that tier one typically works for 80-ish% of our students. And sometimes we have to dig deeper, but we need to dig into the root cause of absenteeism, okay? So too often interventions only address the symptom. So students not showing up is typically just the symptom. But as you know, there's typically a reason behind the absences. So to get to that reason, we have to dig deeper. So I love me some Ted Lasso, but we have to be curious, not judgmental. So this is where I often will encourage to ask why 3 times. So I always told my counselors, we got to ask why 3 times. By asking why 3 times, we can uncover the root cause. So let's walk through a scenario to see kind of how this works. So here's our scenario. So Maya's been absent 7 times this month. In response, the school counselor calls her parents, expresses concern, telling them that Maya needs to attend school regularly to avoid falling behind. After that conversation, Maya attends school for about a week, but then she starts missing again. This intervention didn't work because it only addressed the surface level symptom, her absence. There was no exploration of the root cause, so the problem persisted. So we didn't ask why 3 times. We just called home, expressed concern, let them know Maya needs to come to school, right? And then this is a root cause worksheet. I'm not going to jump into this today, but you have access to it. It's from Attendance Works. There's some more resources at the end of the slideshow that I'll jump into, but it's a really great resource to jump into root causes. So now let's look at this same situation and ask why 3 times. All right. So same scenario. So Maya's been absent 7 times this month. Okay, so we're going to ask why 1 time. Why is Maya missing school? Well, after a conversation with Maya, the counselor learned she's been feeling sick frequently. Okay, why is Maya feeling sick? We asked why 2 times. Maya reveals she's been having frequent stomach aches. Okay, why? We are asking why another time. Why is Maya having frequent stomach aches? Well, Maya admits she feels anxious about attending school because she's been being bullied during lunch. Okay, we can intervene on her being bullied. So our intervention, we're going to do some health checkups with her parents and the nurse. We're going to do some bullying interventions, maybe some restorative conversations. We're going to teach some coping strategies, provide emotional support, regular check-ins with the counselors. Then we might get some approved attendance. So if we're intervening on just not coming to school, we're probably not going to see an increase in attendance. But if we're able to ask why at least 3 times, we're going to get to the root cause, and we can actually intervene on the actual concern as to why Maya isn't coming to school. And that's really important that we're asking why 3 times. So I want to jump into the new Indiana law. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I am not your district lawyer. This is not legal advice. So please consult with your district lawyer. But as most of you on this call know, Indiana just passed a new law. So this is Senate Enrolled Act 282. I've done a lot of research and a lot of work on this law to make sure that schools were prepared to implement what this law is really letting us know that we need to put in place. And honestly, the law is getting to the root cause and helping us intervene for our students. So I'm going to jump into some of it. There's a lot more, and I would encourage you to read it. And I have linked it to this presentation as well. So it is on one of the slides. But essentially what it's telling us is any K through 6 student who has 5 unexcused absences in a 10-week period, it is the school's responsibility to provide written notification to the parent, which most schools already do, but also to schedule an attendance conference with the parent within 5 school days of the 5th absence. The conference should include a representative of the school. Now, this is up to the school. It could be the principal. It could be the school counselor, okay? It has to include the student's teacher, and it has to include the student's parent. It could also include a representative of the parent that the parent invites. Now, the law also states that the parent should provide notification to the school 48 hours prior to the conference. Now, if the parent shows up with their neighbor, most schools aren't going to send the parent away, but the law does say that they should provide notification. Now, if they show up with an advocate or a lawyer, most schools will say, hey, let's reschedule. But if they show up with a friend, we can use common sense. Now, the attendance conference, the school shall establish a plan that addresses why the student is not coming to school. So even the law wants us to ask why and figure out the root cause. The plan should be reviewed after 45 days, outline any disciplinary action to be taken if subsequent days are missed, and then counseling services should be offered to the family, and additional resources should be offered if the student is pregnant, in foster care, homeless, or has a severe illness. And then the school shall hold the conference within 5 days after the 5th absent, whether or not the parent is able to attend. But the school shall make all reasonable efforts to hold the conference at a time that's convenient for the parent. So just like a special ed case conference, let's say you've scheduled it and the parent doesn't show up. Oftentimes the school will still hold the case conference and then send home the IEP. The same is true for this kind of conference. But we should try to hold it at a time that works for the parent. A lot of our schools have asked us, well, can we do it virtually? Can we do it by phone? I think best practice is always in person because a lot can be misinterpreted via phone. Virtually, it's always best to do things in person. But again, we don't want parents to lose their jobs. We need to meet people where they are. So we're always going to try to work with families, but you also have to do what's best for the parent and for the school. So now this is something that I put together based off of some stuff from Attendance Works. It is linked. It's kind of small, but I do want to go through it with you. So this is what we put together as an attendance plan. My goal in making this was to make everyone's life easier. So when you're having this attendance conference, the goal is to walk away with a plan, right? The goal isn't to make it disciplinary. The goal is to sit down with the parent, with the family, and say, okay, your student has been absent. What are we going to do to make it better? Why has your kid been absent? What can we put in place? How can we improve this? So we put together this attendance plan, and there's 3 pages. I just put 1 page per slide because I really wanted to walk through it with you. But on this, you're going to walk through with the parent and say, okay, what are some possible strategies to reach my child's attendance goal? So things like, I will talk to my child about how going to school every day will help my child to do well in school. I will keep an attendance chart at home to track absences, and I can use the calendar below. There's a calendar, you'll see. At the end of the week, I will recognize my child for attending school every day with, what might it be? Maybe it's a visit to the park. Maybe it's a new book. Maybe it's a break from doing chores, okay? I will make sure my child is in bed by whatever time and the alarm clock is set for whatever time. I will find a relative, friend, neighbor who can take my child to or from school if I can't. And then there's a help sheet on the next page. I will set up medical or dental appointments for weekend or weekdays after school. If my child has a slight stomach ache, headache, or allergies and doesn't have a contagious illness, I will send my child to school, and I will call the school or a health provider for advice if my child complains regularly. I think this is one that happens frequently. I know this is one that happens frequently, the stomach aches, the headaches. Okay, let's work through it. Let's figure out the why behind it instead of just saying, oh, they're sick. Oh, they have a headache. They have a stomach ache. Let's figure out the why. Let's work together, okay? And then if my child cannot avoid missing school, I will contact the teacher for tips and resources to keep my child learning. And then to improve my child's attendance, I will commit to the following. They can fill in some things. And then we will review progress to meet this goal in whatever time, signatures from both parties. The next page has my family's help bank. So thinking about, it's not just you as the family, okay? So expand your reach a little bit. Who are some potential helpers? So a potential helper could be maybe a grandparent, maybe a neighbor, maybe an aunt and uncle. Maybe there's somebody who lives down the street. Maybe there's somebody in the class who lives close by. Who else could help get your kiddo to school? And so let's brainstorm who these people are. Let's write down their phone numbers. So that way, when the parents like, well, I leave for work before they get on the bus. I don't know what to do when they're not getting up and getting on the bus. I can't do anything. I can't lose my job. We get that, but let's brainstorm who can help you. And sometimes a parent just needs someone to help them brainstorm who else these helpers can be. And so that's what this is. And these are just some backup plans for getting to school. And then finally, this is Clark Pleasant's calendar, but you could input your own school calendar here. So they have it, and I would recommend they hang this on the refrigerator. And we got our stoplight here, so it's very visual. So satisfactory attendance would be 9 or fewer days. Of course, we'd like that to be fewer. So that's your green. Yellow would be your warning, so that's 10 to 17. Chronic would be red. And then we want to set a goal. So my child was present how many days, my child was absent how many days, and then my goal is to improve my child's attendance. I will ensure my child misses no more than however many days the rest of the year. So this is something that you can sit down, it's ready to go, the attendance conference. You're essentially just creating this success plan. So hopefully when parents are coming in, it's not a difficult conversation to have. It's essentially hey, we're sitting down together, the school and you, we want to help each other. How can we make this better to get your kid to school? This is something that they can take home, put on the fridge, work together, have a goal, and hopefully it will help everybody meet the law that has just been put into place, but also provide some support to increase the students' attendance. So some additional resources I linked. So most of the resources that I've shared is all from Attendance Works. Attendance Works is a free website that has a ton of resources, all for attendance, all the way from preschool through 12th grade, all free, all wonderful resources. A lot of it's translated into multiple languages. I would recommend you take a look at that. I linked the Bring Change to Mind website. This is the Indiana SEA 282 law. So if you want to read all of it, it is linked there. This is an attendance playbook directly from Attendance Works, but it's got some great resources on there as well. This is the Attendance Success Plan. It is a view-only version in Google Doc. So when you open it, you would just make a copy and then you can edit it with your own school calendar or anything you want to change. But it's a Google Doc view only version. So when you open it, again, just click make a copy and then you can make your own copy for your district. And then here's the root cause worksheet as well. So if you have any questions about those things, or if there's another resource that you have a question about or are looking for, just let me know. But are there any questions today? Everybody's so quiet. Okay. All right, that's what I have for you today.
Thank you, Connie. Thanks for sharing the resources too. I'm going to walk you through these last few slides, but if anybody has a question in these last few minutes, please feel free to drop them into the chat or unmute yourselves and you can ask Connie. She has lots of experience working with attendance, so I'm sure she would be glad to respond to any questions you may have. I just dropped into the chat in a very short session evaluation for today, which will also, if you complete that, it will also allow you to receive in your email inbox a certificate with a PGP point. So if you would like that for your license renewal, please take just a second to fill that out. And then, oops, sorry. There we go. Can you see my screen now? And then I'm just going to share some upcoming events that we have happening with Counselor Connect. We next week are going to be hearing from Dr. Russell Sabella. He is very famous in the school counseling world, and he's going to be talking to us about AI and school counseling. That is a virtual event. So if you're interested in checking that out, Engage and Renew is an in-person workshop September 27th at CISC in Indianapolis, which is on the north side of Indianapolis. In the morning, we will be hearing from a speaker on engagement, student engagement. So if you want more information about how to better engage your students, that will be wonderful for that. And then in the afternoon, we're doing something different, and we will have the opportunity to experience wellness in a few different ways. So there will be immersive sound or sound spa, positive nutrition, and restorative art. So if you've ever been curious about any of those things and want to experience them yourself, not only to renew and refresh on your own, but also maybe some great things to take back to your staff for like staff appreciation or your staff wellness plans. So check that out. If you click on any of these graphics, it will take you to more information and to the registration page. And then we have a lot going on in September with virtual events, mostly free virtual events like this one. So check out all of these things happening this month. And again, attend if you can. Everything is always recorded. So if you cannot join live, if you do register, you will still then get an email follow-up with the recording link. So you can watch it later on your own time. And then some resources I wanted to share. We have a digital content library, which is basically just a spreadsheet with all of our digital content, including our recorded sessions, blogs, podcast episodes, and DIY PD guides that are awesome to use within your PLC time or your staff professional development time. So check out all of that, all of those resources in that one place. The Indiana School Counseling Curriculum Library is brand new. It was created over the past school year by Inspire Success and Indiana school counselors. So within the library, we have minimum of three counseling lesson plans, grades K to 12, covering all three domains: academic, social emotional, and college and career. Additionally, we have lesson plans to meet state student instruction requirements, including bullying prevention, child abuse prevention, and graduation plan. So if you're looking for a counseling lesson, check here first. You can always take the lesson, adapt it, modify it, use it as you need to use it. So check that out. And then a couple others, we have a podcast episode that was just released. You can see that there, the homegrown graphic. And then the counselor calendar is we're always adding new information to that. So bookmark that, check it often. Anything and everything that's coming up for school counselors and social workers, I try and drop into that one calendar. So take a look at that. And then finally, sharing from our partners at the DOE, Inspire Success, and ISCA. They are asking for counselors to complete this annual school counselor survey. The deadline for this is September 27th. So if you have a moment, please go ahead and take that survey. Finally, contact information for me and also my colleague Samantha Vidal. And then I'm going to go back and check that chat. Do we have any questions while I was talking, Connie? Anything you need to respond to?
There was one, but I answered it, so I think we're good.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Connie.
Yep.
And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.